Alright everyone, it's time for today's first video. We've got to talk about the legacy media and their essential nervous breakdown at the moment. Because the Virginia gubernatorial election, where I think registration for voting ended yesterday or the day before, initially they thought it was pretty much a shoo-in for McAuliffe. He's the de facto incumbent. It had been reasonably popular, although, buddy-buddying with Northam's not the greatest thing for your political career. Blackface Northam. And then you have McAuliffe, who is somehow worse. The Virginia governor and lieutenant governor positions have been oscillating back and forth for a time now with this sort of crooked machine party Democratic complex. Basically Clinton henchmen, essentially. Now, the problem is that at the 11th hour, in a debate, and you probably all are aware of this, link in the description archived, of course, I'll explain why they're even 10 times more afraid. Youngkin manages to get his breakthrough moment by pounding McAuliffe over his comments regarding parents shouldn't take a role in their kids' education. That's effectively what he said. Parents shouldn't be telling teachers what to teach. Well, that is sort of how the educational system typically works. That's why a school board is elected by the population. That's why people are trying to oust most of the school board incumbents in all the woke states. And also McAuliffe backs critical race theory. So, to be clear, McAuliffe, who in a debate couldn't even define what that meant, essentially called Youngkin a racist dog whistler simply by opposing critical race theory. Despite the fact that he was wrong, and it is actually being taught in Virginia schools, it is revisionist nonsense, and defining it for McAuliffe, it's a partially Marxist-influenced unified field that self-contravenes and is based on literal lies. So Youngkin could have defined it that way, but people's attention span in the TikTok generation, and that'd be too obtuse for them. He should just grunt and scowl and say, CRT bad. No what bad. People would probably get it more. Now, keep in mind down below, if you're watching this video on YouTube, there will be a pinned comment with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. Keep in mind, I make 2, and in the future might make 3, sometimes at least, exclusive videos a day on those platforms: BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, and Minds, that don't go on YouTube, because YouTube, there's a lot of stuff you're not allowed to discuss honestly on it anymore. You're supposed to peddle lies. So, well, why won't you be more like CNN or Fox News? Here's the thing. Here's why they're really concerned. This is why, there are other close potential races to look forward to. Why is it that this one's got them so up in arms? I'll tell you why. The legacy media spent months saying essentially that this was their attack line. Youngkin is liked by Trump. Trump endorsed Youngkin. Orange man bad. So you can't vote for him. And they were looking at his polls, and it was, at the time, they thought a self-fulfilling sort of prophecy situation. They figured that it was basically going to be an automatic loss for the Republicans. Youngkin, of course, less experienced, reasonably well-spoken, I think also a bit younger than McAuliffe, but otherwise his qualification list is relatively short. McAuliffe has the incumbent advantage. He certainly has the money behind him. If you look at his fundraising emails, they've gotten more and more desperate as the election draws closer and the numbers between him and Youngkin shrink. Keep in mind here, I'm not necessarily willing to even bother going out on a limb to predict that there's a possibility of a Youngkin win, because we don't have a fully defortified election there. But the mere fact that it's even possible, and it's definitely going to be considerably closer than was initially envisioned, has the legacy media upset, because they've spent months saying Youngkin equals Trump. Well, if Youngkin equals Trump, and Youngkin wins the gubernatorial election that they all wrote him off about until about a fucking week ago, doesn't that mean that Trump could win too? That's why they're upset. This isn't even about Youngkin. If Youngkin were a rhino, let's say that Trump refused to endorse him and endorsed a primary challenger. Trump endorses a rock in the Virginia gubernatorial election. By the way, the rock would probably do a better job governing than most governors do. If he had done that, I don't think they'd really care. I think it wouldn't be in the news. They wouldn't be attacking Youngkin as much. It's not that they fear Republicans. A lot of people, especially those that lean towards the partisan Republican side or like the standard conservative side, they think there's a war on the Republican Party. I'm thinking to myself, yes, it's clearly there's a war on Liz Cheney, the media darling. No, there's not. There's a war on the populist side. Here's the problem. They're looking at this and they're freaking out. It's setting off alarm bells, because a person they thought couldn't win might win and take Trump's brand and bring it to the state house in Virginia. The problem is that at the same time, Bannon and some of those people are overrunning GOP precincts. Trump has a whole roster list for 2022 and 24 where he's trying to oust a bunch of non-populist libertarian-style Republicans to get rid of people like Liz Cheney. That's the ultimate grudge match. I expect that she'll lose that engagement thoroughly. I expect Trump to be able to underwhelm Liz Cheney. She's at like 35% popularity among her constituents. At this point, she's just around to try to get a book deal or something. I was the one that stood against Orange Man. Poo-poo caca, stinky baby. Look at me. Buy my friggin' book. Now available from Amazon.com. Which, by the way, is about to ruin the Lord of the Rings series forever. So we've got the end of Tolkien canon at this point. Amazon is going woke on that. They're melting down. I think it worries them more. Again, they don't care if the Republicans take the House and Senate. They're just worried that the right kinds are the ones there. The controlled opposition types, John McCain, Liz Cheney, the Bush family, people who they can be relied upon and expected to coalesce with the Democrats, to be very bipartisan on anything that sucks, and to only stand in the way of the good ideas that the Democrats have. Because they're rhinos and neocon corporates. They don't care about you and me. They don't care about it. If you're making less than at least high six figures a year, you're not even a blip on their radar unless that they can use you and vampirize you and parasitize and suck the life out of you. Like, you remember when Biden there in the mid-COVID days there had to TikTok influencers or Instagram influencers or something come to the White House and do videos with him? Have you heard about them lately? Oh, they thought it was great for their career. Wow, I got noticed by Joe Biden. Now, of course, they've been used up and screwed. So now they got a few extra followers on Instagram. Congratulations to them. Oddly enough, they still got more out of it than Joe Biden did. If you look at his polling, his career has been in the shitter for now a couple of months. I think that the odds are still in McAuliffe's favor. Again, partially because the election there is still partially fortified. Although they did, get rid of a couple of the worst layers of fortification there. It's not fraud-free. It's not perfect. That's number one. Number two, in all admission, whether you believe in push polling, missampling there in Virginia like you do on the national level that we can pretty much objectively see, McAuliffe has still been comfortably ahead for most of the time. And keep in mind, a lot of people early on, they made up their minds early on. If you're a parent with kids in school, you may already have cast your early ballot, I think, under Virginia's election laws. Too late. You can't change your mind now, even though McAuliffe has come out and said that you shouldn't have a role in your child's educational system. Just sit down and shut up and let us teach them lies. Let us teach them Marxism. By the way, the military is effectively doing the same thing too. What we need is the people need to go on a general strike and just collapse the whole goddamn economy at this point until Washington comes to its senses. We need to devolve a lot more power back to the states. It'd be better right now to live in 1950 with fast Wi-Fi than to live in the current cultural hegemon. Yes, I'd rather go back to the stuffy sweater ways than live as people are living right now in some cases, especially in blue states. And you got to keep in mind, and this is the third advantage technically McAuliffe has, there are more registered Democrats in Virginia. The suburban outer D.C. area, the sprawl there has grown much more quickly as opposed to rural Appalachian side of Virginia. Those areas grew more slowly. Those areas are extremely red, extremely Republican. Basically, you're looking at the coastal areas, D.C. suburbs, that's tilted. The D.C. suburbs were more swing statey until recently. It's sort of like in the opposite of Florida. In Florida, that middle section of the state, Tampa, Orlando, 50-50. The northern part's all Republicans, the southern part's all Democrats. Now you see it shifting more red. And it's not just Cubans living in Miami. I have a feeling that other people are getting a little bit tired of the Democratic Party shtick too. Effectively, Florida and Virginia have flipped. Virginia was more red. Florida was almost completely 50-50. That's going more red, I think, because of Bernie Sanders. Virginia, because of D.C. sprawl growth, is going more blue. I don't know what the new bellwether state will be. At some point, it might end up being New Hampshire again. That would be the real fight. It's not Iowa. Iowa's deep red now. Iowa's almost, I think they're more red than Ohio at this point. Because Ohio's kind of close. They lean red too. I don't know. The map is all over the place. We're at the end of a political paradigm shift, and people are acting like there's going to be stability. I love it when people think that political trends are unidirectional. Oh boy, have we proven them wrong over the last few elections. That's about all. Peace out.